Wow, some impressive numbers coming out of Axis Bank.
Yeah.
The third largest private sector bank in India just dropped their Q3 FY25 results.
Hmm.
And honestly, they're exceeding expectations left and right.
For sure.
We're talking about a 20% jump in profit year over year and a 9% increase in net interest income.
That's huge, especially when you think about what's happening with the economy as a whole.
Right.
I mean, this isn't just a one-off good quarter.
Yeah.
It seems like they've really figured out a strategy that works, and they're consistently performing well.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we're going to get into today.
I'm excited.
We've got a whole stack of documents we're diving into,
Yeah.
their investor presentation, the detailed financial results, even the auditor's report,
All the good stuff.
all the juicy details, and we're going to break it down, make sense of it all.
Absolutely.
So for anyone who wants to really understand what's going on with Axis Bank, you've come to the right place.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, so let's dive into some of the financial highlights.
Let's do it.
First off, net interest income, or NII as it's sometimes called, is basically the money the bank makes from loans minus what they pay out in interest on deposits.
Right.
Axis Bank brought in a massive euro 13,606 crores in NII, a 9% increase from last year.
Yeah, that's a pretty substantial increase.
Right.
Shows they're really doing well in their core lending business.
That's right.
But they're not just relying on interest income.
No.
They're also bringing in money from other things, like fees for things like credit cards or investment services.
Exactly. Fee income actually went up by 6%, which is a great sign.
Oh, yeah.
It shows they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Diversification, smart move.
Diversifying their revenue, yeah.
Especially in today's market, you never know what's going to happen.
Right. Got to be prepared for anything.
Exactly.
And it seems like this diversification is paying off.
Yeah, how so?
Well, their profitability numbers are looking pretty good.
I like the sound of that.
Return on assets is at 1.71%, and return on equity is sitting at a healthy 15.8%.
Now, those are some solid numbers.
Yes, but for those of us who aren't, financial wizards, what do those percentages actually tell us about the bank's overall health?
So return on assets basically tells you how well the bank is using its assets to, well, make a profit.
Okay.
The higher that percentage is, the more they're squeezing out of every rupee they've invested.
Gotcha.
And then you have return on equity, which measures how much profit they're making for their shareholders.
Right.
So that 15.8% ROE, that's a really good indicator that they're delivering value to those who have invested in the bank.
Okay, so strong growth, good profits, things are looking up for Axis Bank.
They are.
But let's zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, let's take a closer look.
Look at their different business segments.
Right.
Because Axis Bank isn't just about, your typical banking anymore.
It's not your grandfather's bank anymore.
Exactly. They've really embraced this one axis approach.
One axis, I like that.
Which basically means they're trying to be a one-stop shop for all your financial needs.
So they're kind of like a financial supermarket?
Yeah, exactly. Like you can get loans, manage investments, do your everyday banking, even buy insurance, all in one place.
It's all about convenience, making it easy for the customer.
Right. And for Axis Bank, it's a great way to build stronger relationships with their customers.
Makes sense. Keep them coming back for more.
Exactly.
So what are some of the segments that are doing particularly well?
Well, their subsidiaries are really shining right now.
Really? Which ones?
Axis Finance, their financing arm, saw a 20% profit increase.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Yeah, and a big chunk of that is coming from their retail lending, which grew by a whopping 32%.
So more and more people are turning to Axis Finance for their borrowing needs.
It seems that way.
Interesting.
Then there's Axis AMC, their asset management company. They handle mutual funds and other investments for people and institutions.
Right. How are they doing?
They're doing great. A 27% jump in profit for them.
Very nice.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with their equity assets under management, which grew by 24%.
So people are trusting Axis AMC with their money more and more.
Definitely.
That's a good sign.
Okay, and now for the star of the show.
Oh, drum roll, please.
Axis Securities.
Their brokerage arm.
Yes, their brokerage arm, their profit. Are you ready for this?
Lay it on me.
It leaped by 86%.
86. That's insane.
It's amazing, right?
That's incredible. What's fueling that growth?
Well, a lot of it comes from their broken revenues, which jumped 73%.
So basically, more people are investing, and they're choosing Axis Securities to handle their trades.
Exactly. And what's even more interesting is their customer base grew by 13%.
That's a good chunk of new customers.
Yeah, and a lot of that growth is coming from mobile trading.
Ah, so they're really adapting to how people want to invest these days.
Right, everyone's on their phones.
The future is mobile.
Exactly. So it's not just about offering a bunch of services.
Hmm.
It's about making sure those services are easy to use, accessible, especially on mobile.
It's all about the user experience these days.
It really is.
So they're doing well with the tech-savvy crowd.
It seems so
Impressive.
impressive. Now, let's talk about retail banking, because that's really one of Axis Bank's core strengths.
All right, let's dive in.
Their retail loan book, which basically represents all the loans they've given to individuals,
Yeah.
it's massive, 6 trillion.
6 trillion, that's a huge number.
It is, and what's impressive is it's well-diversified, and 71% of it is secured.
That's a good sign, means they're not just throwing money around.
Right, they're being careful, managing risk,
That's a smart move.
but they're also innovating in this space.
How so?
Take their small business banking segment.
Small businesses, the backbone of the economy.
Exactly, and they've been rolling out innovative products like 2047 business loans.
So entrepreneurs can get access to funds whenever they need them.
Right, and it's clearly working because this segment has seen some phenomenal growth.
It's brilliant, tapping into a market that often struggles to get financing from traditional banks.
Yeah, and they're using that one access approach we talked about earlier.
Right, so a small business owner takes out a loan, and then,
Well, they might also need other services like payment processing or even investment advice.
they've got it all.
And Axis Bank can seamlessly connect them to those services.
It's a win-win.
It really is.
The bank grows its customer base, the businesses get the support they need.
Exactly. Everyone benefits.
Love it.
And it's not just about urban areas either.
Oh, tell me more.
They have this initiative called Far-Out Banking.
For banking.
Yeah, specifically targeted at rural and semi-urban markets.
Okay, so they're reaching out to areas where banking services might be limited.
Exactly. Expanding their reach, promoting financial inclusion.
That's a great move, aligns with the government's push for financial inclusion as well.
It does.
So are they actually seeing results in those areas?
They are. Their rural advances, which are basically loans giving out in rural areas, they grew by 17% compared to last year.
That's fantastic. Shows their commitment to serving these markets.
It really does.
So far, it sounds like they're really doing well on the traditional banking front.
They are, but now hold on tight,
Why? What's next?
because we're about to jump into the digital realm.
Oh yeah, things are about to get interesting.
They've really embraced digital banking, and they're pushing boundaries with their open platform.
Open. I've heard whispers about this.
So it's not just a separate app, it's like a digital bank within the bank.
A bank within a bank.
Exactly, and it's already contributing to 6% of their overall business.
Wow. And they're planning to grow it even more.
Significantly.
This is clearly the future of banking, and they're leading the way.
They're not just keeping up, they're setting the pace.
I love that.
And open is not just about attracting new customers, it's about changing the way their existing customers do their banking too.
Right, making it more convenient, more accessible.
Exactly, and they've got the numbers to prove it.
Okay, what kind of numbers are we talking about?
40% of their retail term deposits were acquired digitally.
That's a significant portion.
And get this, 59% of personal loans were dispersed through digital channels.
So more than half of their personal loans are happening online?
It's a huge shift in customer behavior.
People are really getting comfortable with managing their money online.
They are, and Axis Bank is making sure that online experience is top-notch.
Tell me more.
Their mobile app, available on both Android and iOS, is super user-friendly and packed with features.
No wonder it has such high ratings in the app stores.
Exactly, and they're constantly adding more features and services.
It's like having a bank in your pocket.
Right, you can do pretty much anything you need to do right from your phone.
That's incredible.
Okay, and speaking of game changers,
Oh, what else?
we have to talk about UPI.
The Unified Payments Interface.
Yes, it's revolutionizing payments in India, and Axis Bank is a major player in that space.
They're not just playing, they're leading.
They are. They're actually number one in the UPI payer PSP space with a market share of around 30%.
So when someone's making a UPI payment, chances are Axis Bank is involved somehow. Very likely.
That's impressive.
And they're not just processing payments, they're also innovating within the UPI ecosystem.
Oh, like what? Remember BBPS, the Bharat Bill Payment System?
Yeah.
Well, Axis Bank was the first to launch that for business-to-business transactions.
So they're expanding the uses of UPI beyond just person-to-person payments.
Exactly, making it a more versatile platform for businesses.
Smart move. Everyone wins.
Right. And they've also developed Neo, which is their internet banking platform designed specifically for businesses.
So they've got the individual customers covered and the businesses too.
Exactly. And they even rolled out a mobile app for Neo just for payment authorizations.
They're really going all in on digital for businesses.
They are, and they haven't forgotten about security.
Of course, that's crucial in the digital age.
Absolutely, and they've got a top-notch cybersecurity rating and a very low UPI decline rate.
It's reassuring. Shows their systems are reliable and secure.
Exactly, they're building these platforms with security in mind from the ground up.
That's the way to do it.
So it's not just about having fancy technology, it's about using it responsibly and securely.
Right. It's about building trust with their customers.
And speaking of exciting new developments, they're doing some interesting things with Account Aggregator.
Account aggregator. I've
Right.
been hearing a lot about that lately.
Yeah, it's still early days, but they're exploring different ways to use this platform.
What is account aggregator, for those who don't know?
Well, it lets people share their financial data from different sources, like their bank accounts, investment accounts, with other providers like lenders, all securely.
So they can get a more complete picture of their finances.
Right, and Axis Bank is already offering personal loans based on this aggregated data.
That's amazing. It could really help people who might not have a traditional credit history.
Exactly. It's about making financial services more accessible and inclusive.
It's really exciting to see how they're using technology to make a difference.
It is, but before we get carried away with all the digital stuff,
Yeah.
we can't forget about the fundamentals like asset quality.
Right. The foundation of any healthy bank.
Exactly. And fortunately, Axis Bank seems to have things under control.
What are the numbers looking like?
Their gross and net NPA figures are stable and healthy.
Remind me what those are again.
So the gross NPA is at 1.46%,
Okay.
and the net NPA is even lower at 0.35%.
That's good.
They're good numbers, and it shows they're doing a good job managing their loan portfolio, minimizing those risky loans.
Risk management is key.
It is, and they're not afraid to tackle their legacy asset quality issues either.
How so?
They've made good progress in reducing their exposure to the BB and below corporate loan book.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, those are basically loans given to companies that have a lower credit rating.
Oh, the riskier ones.
Right. So by reducing their exposure to those loans, they're further strengthening their asset quality.
Makes sense, reducing their vulnerability.
Exactly. So they're doing well on the digital front. They're managing their assets well.
It's all looking good.
But there's more.
Oh, there's more.
Yes. They're also making waves with their commitment to ESG.
ESG, that's environmental, social, and governance, right?
We're at it.
They're really stepping up in that area.
They are. They've actually become the first Indian bank to create an ESG committee of the board.
Wow, they're serious about this.
They are. This isn't just a PR stunt. They're baking ESG into their core decision-making process.
That's fantastic to see.
And they're putting their money where their mouth is. They've already channeled 30,400 crores under wholesale banking into sectors that have positive social and environmental impacts.
That's a substantial amount. They're making a real difference.
They are, and it's not just about the environment. They're also focused on social responsibility.
Like what?
They're aiming to increase female representation in their workforce to 30% by FY27.
Diversity and inclusion, that's great.
And they're addressing the need for affordable housing with things like ASHA home loans.
So they're making home ownership more accessible for low-income families.
Exactly.
Axis Bank is really showing that they care about more than just profits.
They are, and this focus on ESG is becoming increasingly important for investors and customers alike.
People want to support businesses that align with their values.
Absolutely, and Axis Bank is positioning themselves well for the future with this commitment.
So they're doing good and doing well.
It's a powerful combination.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
It's been a whirlwind of information.
It has. We've seen that Axis Bank is delivering impressive financial performance, innovating in the digital space, and really demonstrating a genuine commitment to responsible banking.
They're hitting all the right notes.
They are, but we've only scratched the surface.
There's more to come.
There's so much more to explore.
Can't wait.
We'll dive deeper into their digital leadership, their asset quality, and the role of their subsidiaries in their overall success.
Sounds like a plan.
So stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into Axis Bank's Q3 FY25 performance.
I'm ready.
We'll be right back after a short break.
See you soon. All right, so we were talking about that impressive digital growth they've got going on.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
Especially their open platform. It's really more than just an app at this point.
Right, it's like a whole digital banking ecosystem.
Exactly, and it's not just about attracting new customers who are, already comfortable with online banking.
Yeah, what about their existing customers?
Well, it's changing how they bank, too.
Okay, how so?
I mean, think about it. 40% of their retail term deposits came through digital channels.
That's a lot.
And get this, 59% of personal loans were dispersed digitally.
So more than half of their personal loans are happening online. It's a pretty clear sign that people are getting more comfortable with managing their finances online.
Absolutely. It's all about convenience and accessibility.
Well, convenience isn't everything.
Right. The experience has to be good too.
Exactly. What about the actual user experience on their platform?
Well, that's where Axis Bank really shines. Their mobile app is not just functional, it's actually really well designed.
Okay, like what makes it so good?
Well, it's intuitive, it's easy to use, they've packed it with
There's
features.
no wonder it's got such high ratings in the app stores.
Exactly. And they're constantly adding more stuff, more services. It's like their biggest branch in a way.
What do you mean?
Well, they offer over 250 self-service options right on the app.
So you can do pretty much everything you need to do without ever stepping foot in an actual branch.
Pretty much. Check balances, transfer funds, pay bills, even apply for loans, all from your phone.
That's incredible. Talk about empowering customers.
It really is. It's banking on your own terms,
Yeah.
anytime, anywhere.
Okay, and while we're talking about digital payments, we have to mention UPI.
UPI, the Unified Payments Interface, it's a game changer.
It really is, and Axis Bank is a dominant force in that space.
They're not just playing, they're winning.
They are. They hold the #1 spot in the UPI pair PSP space.
Which basically means they're handling a huge chunk of all UPI transactions in India.
Right. They've got a market share of around 30%.
That's a testament to their infrastructure, their commitment to making payments seamless.
It really is, but they're not just processing payments.
No, they're innovating too.
Right. Remember when we were talking about BBPS, the Bharat Bill Payment System?
Yeah.
Well, Axis Bank was the first to launch that for business-to-business transactions.
So they're expanding the use cases for UPI, making it more versatile.
Exactly. It's not just for person-to-person payments anymore.
Businesses can use it too, which is a huge win for everyone.
It benefits the whole ecosystem.
It's the whole system more efficient.
And it's not just UPI. They've also developed Neo, their internet banking platform for businesses.
Neo, that's a pretty cool name.
It is, and it's a really comprehensive suite of tools.
So they're catering to both individual customers and businesses with their digital offerings.
They've got all their bases covered.
It's impressive.
And they even rolled out a mobile app for Neo, specifically for payment authorizations.
They're really going all in on digital for businesses.
They are, but with all this technology, what about security?
That's a valid concern, especially with financial data.
Exactly, but Axis Bank seems to be on top of it.
What makes you say that?
Well, they've got a best-in-class cybersecurity rating.
That's reassuring, but what does that actually mean for the average person?
Basically, it means they've taken all the necessary steps to protect their systems and their customers' data.
Okay, so they got strong firewalls, encryption, all that good stuff.
Exactly. And their low UPI decline rate, it's only 0.04%. That also indicates their systems are reliable and secure.
So they're minimizing disruptions for customers.
Right. It shows they're thinking about security from the start.
It's not an afterthought.
And they're not just using technology for the sake of it.
Right. It's about solving problems, making things easier and safer for their customers.
Exactly. And remember, Account Aggregator, which we touched on earlier.
Yeah, the platform that lets people share their financial data securely.
Right. Well, Axis Bank is finding some really innovative ways to use it.
Like how?
Well, they're actually offering personal loans based on that aggregated data.
So someone who might not have a traditional credit history could still qualify for a loan.
Exactly. It's about making financial services more inclusive, reaching people who might have been excluded in the past.
That's really cool, using technology to level the playing field.
It is, but even with all this digital innovation, we can't forget about the fundamentals.
Right, the things that make a bank strong.
And asset quality is a big one.
Absolutely, it's like the foundation of the whole operation.
Exactly. And fortunately, Axis Bank seems to have a pretty solid foundation.
What are their asset quality numbers looking like?
Well, their gross and net NPA figures are stable, which is a good sign.
Remind me what those are again?
Sure. So the gross non-performing asset ratio, or GNPA, is at 1.46%.
Okay.
And the net NPA ratio is even lower at 0.35%.
So basically, they're not carrying a lot of bad loans.
Right, and those numbers are pretty healthy, especially compared to some other banks.
It shows they're managing risk well, being careful about who they lend to.
Exactly. And their provision coverage ratio is also strong at 76%.
Which means they're prepared if some of those loans do go bad.
Right. They're not just hoping for the best, they're planning for potential challenges.
That's smart. That's responsible.
And they're also addressing those legacy asset quality issues we talked about earlier.
Right, they're reducing their exposure to those riskier corporate loans.
Exactly. They're cleaning things up, making their balance sheet even stronger.
They're being proactive, not just reactive.
It's a good sign. Shows they're focused on the long term.
And it's not just about the numbers, they're also leading the way when it comes to sustainability.
Right. They're not just talking about ESG, they're actually doing something about it.
And remember, that ESG committee they set up, that's a pretty big deal.
It is. It shows they're serious about integrating sustainability into their core operations.
It's not just a PR stunt.
And they're putting their money where their mouth is. They've already channeled 30,400 crores into projects with positive social and environmental impacts.
That's a significant investment. They're making a real difference.
And it's not just about the environment either. They're focused on the social aspects of ESG as well.
Like what?
Well, they're working on increasing female representation in their workforce.
Diversity and inclusion, that's great.
And they're addressing the need for affordable housing with initiatives like ASHA home loans.
That's a fantastic program, helping families achieve homeownership.
They're showing that they care about more than just profits.
Right, it's about having a positive impact on society.
And that's becoming increasingly important for everyone, investors, customers, employees, everyone.
Absolutely, people want to support businesses that align with their values.
And Axis Bank is doing just that.
It's a win-win. They're doing good and doing well at the same time.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, but we still need to dig into their financial performance a bit more.
Right, the nitty-gritty detail.
Let's talk about their profitability, their capital adequacy, all that good stuff.
Let's get into the numbers.
So stick with us as we continue our deep dive into Axis Bank's Q3 FY25 performance.
Things are about to get really interesting.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Axis Bank.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
It has. We've talked about their digital initiatives, their ESG efforts, their different business segments.
They're doing a lot of things right.
They really are, but now it's time to talk about their financials.
The numbers, the heart of the matter.
Exactly. So let's start with profitability. How are they doing in that department?
Well, they've reported a consolidated profit after tax of 6,304 crores for the quarter.
Okay, and how does that compare to last year?
It's a 20% increase year over year.
Wow, that's a pretty significant jump.
It is. It shows they're on the right track.
So what's driving this growth in profitability?
Well, a couple of things. Their net interest income and fee income have been growing steadily,
Right, we talked about that earlier.
which means they've got a healthy and diverse revenue stream.
Diversification is key.
Absolutely. But they've also been very effective at managing their costs.
So it's not just about bringing in more revenue, it's about spending wisely too.
Exactly. You got to watch both sides of the equation.
Makes sense. So what about their capital position? How strong is their foundation?
Their capital position is rock solid. Their capital adequacy ratio, or CIR, is at 17.1%.
Okay, that sounds good, but can you explain what that means for those of us who aren't financial experts?
Sure. The CRR basically measures how much capital a bank has compared to its risk-weighted assets.
Okay.
And regulators set minimum CR requirements to make sure banks have enough cushion to absorb potential losses.
So a higher CR means they're in a better position to weather any storms.
Exactly. And 17.01% is well above the regulatory requirements, so they're in great shape.
That's good to hear. So they're making money, they're managing their costs, they've got a strong capital base.
That's all looking good.
Now, let's revisit their asset quality. We talked about this earlier, but it's worth digging a little deeper.
Of course, asset quality is crucial for any bank.
Absolutely. So how are they doing in that regard?
Well, their gross non-performing assets, or GNPA ratio, is at 1.46%,
Okay.
and their net NPA ratio is even lower, at 0.35%.
Can you remind us what those ratios represent?
Sure, the GNPA ratio basically tells you what percentage of the bank's loans aren't being repaid as agreed.
Right. The bad loans.
And the net NPA ratio takes into account the provisions the bank has set aside to cover potential losses on those loans.
So a lower net NPA ratio means they're better prepared to handle those losses.
Exactly. And 0.35% is a very healthy number,
That's good. And their provision coverage ratio is also strong at 76%.
which all points to really strong risk management practices.
It seems they're doing everything right.
They're firing on all cylinders.
So we've got a bank that's profitable, well-capitalized, has strong asset quality.
It's the trifecta.
It is, but it's not just about the numbers.
No, it's about the bigger picture.
Their success is about more than just financial metrics.
Right, they're innovating. They're embracing digital transformation. They're committed to sustainability.
They're setting a new standard for banking in India.
They're not just adapting to change, they're driving it.
And it's really exciting to see.
It is. They've come a long way.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, but we've only scratched the surface.
There's always more to explore.
There is. The world of finance is constantly evolving.
It's a fascinating world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Axis Bank, what's the key takeaway for our listener?
I think the key takeaway is that Axis Bank is more than just a bank. They're a force for positive change.
They're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk.
Exactly. They're delivering strong financial performance, they're embracing the future of banking, and they're doing it all responsibly.
They're a company to watch, that's for sure.
Keep an eye on Axis Bank. They're going places.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And as always, stay curious and keep exploring the world of finance.